What's up, fight fans, and welcome back to the KJ MMA Show. And I'm your host, Garrett Kerman. And with me, as always, is my man, Ryan Jarrell. What's up, man? How's it going?
What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing great, doing great. Lots to talk about. A lot went down last weekend. UFC Vegas 45 was on tap. Heavyweights, Derek Lewis, Chris Dawkins, and then obviously Tyron Woodley and Jake Paul. But let's start out with that because I feel like that's a lot there, a lot to talk about. What did you make of that fight, the second fight between Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley?
Well, first of all, I'm just going to get it out there in the open that I didn't buy the pay-per-view. I didn't spend my money on that. If I'm going to spend my hard-earned money, I'm sorry, I'm going to spend it on a UFC pay-per-view, something like that, or maybe like a Canelo boxing match. But yeah, I didn't get it. But obviously, I caught everything that happened. I saw the knockout. I mean, it was bad. I mean, T Wood got knocked out cold, man. And honestly, I kind of feel for him because at one point in his career, there were a lot of MMA experts that were saying Tyron Woodley is getting close to GSP status as one of the greatest welterweights that we've ever seen. And I still think at the peak of his powers, he was one of the best welterweights that we've ever seen. But my God, the fall from grace has been catastrophic. I can't believe that we've seen someone who was, I mean, when he was in the octagon and he was marching forward and he was throwing bombs, I mean, dude, he looked like an absolute bull moose coming at you. And if he got a hold of you and landed one of them big shots, night, the show was over. So, I can't believe that we're here, I guess is my biggest point. And granted, this was not a mixed martial arts bout, but to lose, especially in that fashion to Jake Paul, I mean, it's just tough, man. It's if you're a T Wood fan, and I consider myself a T Wood fan, and it's just tough. It's a tough thing to see, and I do think it affects his legacy and taints it in a very negative way, unfortunately. And again, this is boxing. It's not MMA. It would be very different if he fought Jake Paul in an MMA bout. Jake Paul, I don't think would last a minute. I think Jake Paul would get run right through, but not in a boxing match. Jake Paul did his thing, and I think we need to see him against like a legit good name boxer next, because T Wood, as good as his striking is a wrestler, right? That's his bread and butter. So I want to see Jake Paul against like a boxer, a mixed martial artist that's a boxer first. So yeah, I don't know, man. I still can't wrap my head around it that he got knocked out cold. What did you think?
I was definitely surprised, especially the way it happened. I mean, it looked good on paper, but then at the end of the day, it's like, oh man, he did really fall for that? Like he faked to the body and then came over top, and then it landed flush. So whether people want to believe it or not, it was a hard hit, and he went down. It arguably looked like the worst knockout of his entire career. UFC boxing, everything. That was the worst because he was laying on the canvas for a while as well. So the impact from that was kind of brutal, and I wasn't really expecting a knockout. I was thinking another close fight, another close decision, but Jake Paul went in there and deaded this man. It was not a pretty sight to see, especially knowing that we're always going to root for the MMA guy against Jake Paul. But Jake Paul went in there and did his thing. But it's just, I don't think we're ever going to see Jake Paul go against an actual boxer, because that. I know he's going to talk like he's the best boxer just because, that's his persona. That's what he's going to do. But he's not going to go in there and just ruin all the money that he's going to be making fighting these celebrities that think they can box, or these MMA fighters that think they can box. Le'Veon Bell is now calling out Jake Paul, and then he's making fun of Tyron Woodley. I'm like, Le'Veon Bell would get starched by Jake Paul. It wouldn't even be competitive.
Yeah.
So I feel like he's going to keep going that route, keep getting as much money as possible, and right off into the sunset. And maybe he'll go down the line and even face like a Canelo, only because of name value. He's winning fights, all professional fights, and then he goes the counter route and fights a Canelo and makes some crazy amount of money between the two of them.
Yeah.
And then that's his first and only loss, and then he rises into a sunset, and that's it.
Yeah, listen, let me tell Jake Paul's PR team, if anyone happens to be watching, stay the hell away from Canelo. That will not end good. This guy is the best pound for pound boxer on the planet. He will turn Jake Paul's lights out in an instant, regardless of the weight class. I could care less if Jake Paul was 30 pounds heavier than Canelo. Canelo would absolutely tool on Jake Paul. But look, I do think Jake Paul has some skills. I do. I think, he clearly has been devoting his life to becoming a better boxer. The one thing I will disagree with you, Garrett, on is that I feel like ultimately we will see him against a legitimate boxer, someone with serious hands, and that's their bread and butter. I don't know when that's going to be. I don't know if it's 3 fights from now. I don't know if it's 5, 10, but I think ultimately he fancies himself as a professional boxer, and he's going to test himself against a high level boxer. But who knows when that time frame is going to come? And to add insult to injury, how bad can you feel like Tyron Woodley's mother is there cage side, and they're putting cameras in her face, asking her questions like, it was just such a spectacle in a negative way. I didn't like seeing all that. When she's there watching her son compete, it's not about her, it's about her son. So just get the cameras out of her face and don't be asking her questions. Anything that she does, if she slaps a reporter up over the head, or they deserve it, because you got to stay out of his mother's face when her son's in there, competing as a prize fighter. But I don't know, man. It's just so weird where we are right now in almost 2022. Combat sports has turned into celebrity combat sports. That's basically what we're going into in this upcoming year.
Yeah, it's crazy, and he's calling out, Masvidal is calling out Nate Diaz, who was there in attendance. Both of them were actually. I don't know if you saw the video of Nate Diaz and that person that was holding the beer.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was hilarious. I still don't know the context behind it, but that was hilarious. If you've not seen it, go and watch it right now. You'll die laughing. I've watched it about 100 times. But yeah, I mean, this guy, he's calling out fighters that he knows he could possibly beat, and these guys are actually like smaller than him. Like a Nate Diaz, he's much smaller than a Jake Paul. Masvidal is also smaller too. If he's gonna go against guys his size, the guys that would actually legitimately cut weight, like an Alex Pereira, he might die. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we need to see Jake Paul against a legit middleweight. That's
Right,
basically
right.
what he is. He's a middleweight. When he fought Woodley at 190, that was Woodley. I mean, I don't even think Woodley had to cut any weight for that. He's probably walking around at 195, 200 tops. So he needs to, if he wants more respect, and he wants the combat sports community to get behind him and consider him legitimate, he needs to fight someone a little bit closer to his size range. And as great as Woodley was as a mixed martial artist, the guy was a welterweight, and there are weight classes for a reason. It's 15 pounds between, welterweight and middleweight. And when it comes to prize fighting, that's significant. So I think ultimately we're going to see him test himself against a bigger MMA fighter that fancies himself a boxer, or that's his style. So we'll see what happens moving forward. But what can you say, man? He's done well to make money and generate interest, and people are buying the pay-per-views.
Yeah, huge pay-per-view buys, which is kind of absurd if you really think about it. And he's actually good for the sport in a sense. You look at the people that are getting paid on the undercard. I mean, Serrano is now a millionaire because of Jake Paul and pushing her on his cards and that. So kudos to him actually helping out other fighters as well. So he's not all bad for the sport. Let's be honest. I mean, he puts out the persona that he's an asshole, and that's what he's got to do to gain interest. But in reality, he's not the biggest piece of shit that you'll ever meet on the planet. He actually does good things. But yeah, enough of that about that. We got to talk about the heavyweight matchup this past weekend. Chris Dawkins, Derek Lewis. Wow. It was brutal to watch because I am a fan of Chris Dawkins. But I got to say, I was not surprised. I even had Lewis winning by knockout as well. What did you think about that fight?
Well, I have and it's not that I don't like the Black Beast, Derek Lewis. I do. I've become a massive fan of Kyle Dawkins from interviewing him. I just think he's a great guy. And Chris is his brother, so I kind of was cheering for his brother to keep making a run at maybe a heavyweight title shot, and then maybe Kyle fighting on the same card. It'd be a real big deal, right, for the Dacus family. But I mean, look, Derek Lewis, for me, Derek Lewis is one of those guys that I'm not going to call him a gatekeeper, because I think that's a disservice to him. I don't think we're going to see Derek Lewis win the heavyweight title. That's what I'm going to say. I think that he's one of those guys that is right there at the top of the division. And there's a couple guys that I don't think he can beat, but I think he beats the rest of the division. So any up and comers that want to test themselves to see how good they really are, if they can win a heavyweight title, then Derek Lewis is a good barometer to figure out, how good am I? Because if you're not going to beat him if you're not a legitimate title contender. He's going to beat everyone else. So, and I think we learned that about Chris. I mean, I don't know that I saw anything stylistically or any changes that he could make that could maybe go in there and beat Lewis a second time around, unless maybe he wants to bulk back up, because the size difference was huge between those two. That was the biggest factor that I saw in that fight. And I think talking to Kyle, Chris likes staying a little bit leaner now, being around that 235, 240 range. And Lewis has to cut to make heavyweight. So that's a big difference. And you know how you get power like that with those heavyweights, all it takes is one.
Yep, that's true. And I even said it, Derek Lewis, you need one punch in 25 minutes. You only needed one punch to win a fight in 25 minutes. That means Chris Dawkins had to fight the perfect fight for 25 minutes where he's not getting hit flush on the chin. And unfortunately, Derek Lewis hit him flush on the chin once, and then it just rattled him from there. So Derek Lewis is one of the hardest, fights for anybody in the division, because of the fact that you have to fight the best fight of your entire life to beat him, because he's that skilled and he's got that much power, and it's hard to take him out. There's only a few people that were able to finish him inside the distance. So he's hard to beat on the feet. He's hard to take down. He's hard to keep down. So, that's why he's still at the top of the top. The only people that I think that could possibly beat him is Stipe, obviously, and then Francis Ngannou, Cyril Gane, because he's beaten him already, and John Jones. Other than that, I don't see anybody really else below him that's going to be able to beat him.
And we still got to see John Jones at heavyweight.
Right.
I'm not disrespecting John Jones. He's clearly one of the greatest ever, but it's a significant difference between light heavyweight and heavyweight. I'm sure John Jones will transition to heavyweight just fine. But I still want to see him in there. I want to see how he looks. I want to see how he deals with those monsters using all their weight if they're in the clinch up against the cage. Like, is he going to be able to do what he normally does and get out and throw elbows and be slick with his his range, utilizing his range? So that's going to be an interesting factor to see how all that plays out at heavyweight, because a lot of these guys now, as we said earlier, they're walking around close to the 265 limit, or they're cutting weight to make 265. And that's a load, man. That is a lot of weight to be carrying around.
Absolutely. I'm excited for him to come back. I don't know when it's going to happen. I'm almost certain it's probably going to be sometime next year. I'm really looking forward to it. He's over at Fight Ready Camp right now, so getting in some really good training there. So I'm looking forward to that. And what the heavyweight brings. You got Cyril Gane taking on Francis Ngannou for the heavyweight title next year as well in January. We have that to look forward to. So there's a lot coming up in 2022. A lot of big fights have been announced as well. Really looking forward to what the new year has in store for us.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Speaking of heavyweights, Garrett, we have quite a monster of a man. He's nicknamed the Mountain. And of course, I'm talking about UFC heavyweight Jared Vanderaa on the line right now. So we're going to take a quick little break, and we're going to bring in UFC heavyweight Jared Vanderaa. All right, and here he is, UFC heavyweight Jared Vanderaa. Jared, how are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm kind of a hot mess right now, but besides that, I'm doing all right.
Well, it's good to see you, man. And we were supposed to see you inside of the UFC Octagon most recently against Azamat Murzakanov. I probably butchered that last name, but unfortunately, you weren't medically cleared for that fight. So can you just elaborate a little bit more on that and explain what happened there?
Well, basically, it was brought up about my potentially for having Marfans, and well, one doctor was like, "Okay, you're good because here's a echo of your heart saying that you're clear." And one of the other doctors caught wind of it, and he was like, "I'm not for sure if that's something I'm comfortable with you fighting." I'm like, "Well, I fought this whole year with it, or with this echo showing that I have nothing of concern." But it was just one of those things where they're like, with our medical professions, that we're like, we are not comfortable with you fighting. And I was like, I can't really, don't have a good argument there. So I was just like, all right, well, that sucks. And so I lost out of having that fight with Azamat. And I'm currently trying to get cleared. I have my appointment January 6th with a professional to clear me of Marfan syndrome, or sadly diagnose me with Marfan syndrome. But I'm going place in Newport Beach that specializes in it. So
what exactly is Marfan syndrome, and how does it affect you? Like, do you have any symptoms from it, and have you had it for a while? Is it something you've been dealing with for a long, long time?
okay, so in a sense it's a tall person disease. Now, relatively, if you have most of the it's a lifelong thing. You're born with it. Um, well, the biggest indicator is flexibility and hypermobile joints, being tall, really long appendages and stuff like that. Now, one of the disorganizing factors is being able to put on weight. Obviously, I'm 6'4", but I'm 280. So that's one of the, like, hey, you don't have it, but because of my flexibility issues, or not flexibility issues, but the fact that I'm extremely double jointed, I've dislocated both my hips, both my shoulders, countless of times. Dislocate my thumb almost on a daily occurrence. These are weird tales of potentially having Marfan syndrome. Now, that's not the bad part. What's the big concern is the aorta valve. Well, it builds calcium over the aorta valve and makes it work too hard, and that causes it to violently erupt. And it's a quick, painful death if you happen to have it, or if it's not taken care of. So, and this happened to one NBA player, I believe, about 7, 8 years ago. I do also know, like, the former lead singer of Mice and Men, Austin Carlisle, actually currently does battle Marfan's, and he has to get heart surgery like every 2 to 3 years type of thing. So it is something that is concerning. But at the same time, I kind of never really pushed on completely finding out if I had it, due to the fact that it could end my career. So
I guess why now are the doctors not medically clearing you versus fights in the past? Is there something that in particular transpired or happened leading into this fight?
not really. It's just one. Well, I found out that most doctors are, lack of better words, just ignorant on it. And well, one doctor was not so ignorant about it, so he was like, "Oh shit." He goes, "I you could die from it." And that he goes, that's all I need to know. So no. And I was like, "Yeah, all right. I'm not going to argue with you." But yeah. And like, I tried to tell Sean and Mick and my manager, I'm like, "Hey, you guys have my heart scan. You could get that reviewed right now by another doctor showing that I'm okay." And they're like, "Well," and then this other doctor was like, "No, it needs to be done this month." And I actually had an echo from the UFC because of COVID last year, and I got it done sometime in January, early February. So it was one of those things where I'm just like, hey guys, you do have my heart echo. You could go look at it, and you could get a doctor to be like, oh, it's fine, or no, it's not. So, but I'm not going to sit there and argue with them. They're they are my bosses, so I'm, and I actually like working for the company, so I just shut up and I was like, yo, I'm going to get this taken care of so I don't get in trouble anymore. So,
Do you feel confident that you're going to this appointment in early January? Do you feel confident that you're going to get cleared and you'll be able to fight again soon?
maybe. Like, I mean, it is a real concern of mine. And one good news is that it's kind of was a big burn lifted off was my youngest daughter doesn't have the gene for it. So that gives me hope that I don't have the gene.
Okay, well that's obviously good news. Geez, man, this is I got to imagine maybe you're feeling a little discouraged or frustrated right now with all this happening, especially since you've been competing for as long as you have to now be in the UFC, a viable heavyweight that just had a big win recently. Are you more or less just kind of you're not sure how to feel right now? Like, I mean, what are your day-to-day emotions? This has got to be kind of a lot to process.
Oh, well, there's really nothing I could do until I get this test done. So, I mean, I really can't stress about it. Like, why stress about something that I might not have? And if I do have it, why stress about it until I know? And, if I have it, I have to figure out different avenues for life. But, I mean, kind of coming where I come from and the struggles I've had, it's nothing fucking new. I've always had to struggle one way or another. So what's one more challenge in this, life that's filled with challenges? It sucks since, I don't get to compete in the UFC anymore. But at the same time, I could sit there and be like, hey, I made it to the UFC. I had a heart problem that I was unsure about. It's like, all right, what's your excuse for not making it there? So that, like, if I have it, I have it. If I don't, cool. If I don't, you'll see me fight sooner than later.
So just to be clear, if you are diagnosed with this and you have it, your UFC career is done. You won't be fighting anymore.
I would say I'm 90% sure that that's the case. Like, I believe I could have it, but if I don't have the G, or if I don't have the, so from what I've gathered, I am no doctor. So what I've gathered, basically, Marfan's is on a spectrum. You could have certain signs of it and not have other signs of it. So basically, I could still have Marfan syndrome. I could be all rubbery and bendy and tall, but but I might not have the part where it affects your heart or the high, like, very skinniness. So if like, from what I've gathered, that is a possibility too. And then I would have to prove that I don't have the heart issue, and that would be brought up by echo.
Okay. Well, I guess at this point we just hope and pray for the best that you get some good news, man.
Yeah, I mean, like, I have to take the test. Okay, so I don't even know if I'm getting a test. I believe it's a consultation. So it could be consultation, then I could get all the tests done that day, or I have to wait a week or two. I don't know. It seems like a pain in the ass, but I do know that if I get cleared by this group, I'd be like, yo, UFC, I'm good. I'd be like, hey, Nick, I will take any fight if you need it. Like, if someone pulled out tomorrow and you need him fight Friday, I am there. I'm your guy. I was like, I'm yeah. So I'm not too worried about it until time comes to hear the moment of truth. But that's just kind of life. You could have everything at the world, like the world in your fingertips, and then it suddenly disappears. So I mean, I started from the bottom 2 or 3 times. I've been homeless, so I mean, what's like I said, what's one more issue?
Definitely sending good vibes your way, my friend.
Thank you, gents.
Absolutely, absolutely. We want to touch base on your last fight. Unfortunately, it was a loss against Alexander Romanov, but I want to know, what did you take away from that fight?
Uh, a lot and a little. Now, like how I'm gonna say this is I don't want to come off jackasses, especially to my coaches. I love my coaches. My coaches are definitely, but I have to have them, like they are friends, they're family, but I have to kind of put them in a department. Like I have to have one coach be in this lane, another coach be in that lane, another coach be in that lane. The moment that they start kind of crossing paths, it puts a lot of like issues towards me. And in all fairness, I am just starting to work with two of the coaches, or like I'm newly working with two of the coaches. I've worked with Brandon for roughly a year now, and I've worked with Helio, I want to say, for the last 3 to 4 months. So there's a lot of we're still trying to figure out the working process between us and them, and that came. One of the factors was conditioning. I actually find myself when I control my conditioning, I feel the best. When I'm in control of my conditioning, I feel like I'm on top of the world. But I have also noticed when I let other people take over my conditioning, I actually feel like I tank. And like I have worked with people that are phenomenal conditioning coaches. It's just for some reason I just don't care to do the activities or the workouts and get that full enjoyment out of. Like I have actually worked with Cheeto's strength and conditioning coach. I think he's a phenomenal coach. He's actually done wonders on helping build my shoulder. My wrestling coach was also my strength and conditioning coach, and we just did some things. I'm just like, I don't see the point of this because I don't feel like I would ever utilize this in a fight, and my cardio, kind of took a hit from it, and I felt that almost damn near immediately. Like there was a few things going into that fight that kind of just mentally fucked with me, like. One was just kind of the whole entrance. I actually was asked not to talk about some of that. So the entrance, and so that kind of was nothing crazy happened. It was just me mentally having an issue. So I don't want to point the blame there, but the entrance, that was an issue. Then when I got the guillotine, so early in the fight, I wasn't doing shit in the striking department. He comes in, I get the guillotine. I'm like, yeah, I got this fucker. Then I hear the ref go, let go of the fence, Romanov. And I heard let go first. And I saw the ref coming towards me. I was like, oh shit. But I'm like, he hasn't touched me yet. So I'm holding on to this guillotine. But I loosened it. And that me loosening it really kind of just, it allowed him to breathe and stuff. And I was like, and it eventually led me to the takedown. Now, once we got the first takedown, I was getting up, I was on the fence. And the moment I hit the fence, I was like, shit, my cardio isn't where it needs to be. And, from there, I try to do my best to defend, get up, and, it just doesn't work out. There's, some hints of brilliantness, and I fell flat on my face in a sense. But at that moment, I realized, I should have confidence in myself and, allowing me to control and dictate what makes me feel the best going into a fight. And that means I have to do my own cardio. Not to disrespect any of my coaches, but my cardio was one of those things where I didn't feel like it was present in that fight. I felt like it mentally hindered me in that fight. And at the end of the day, I just was one of those moments where I'm like, yo, I made it here. My first 5 fights, I was undefeated. I didn't have a manager. I didn't have anybody. I did it myself. I set up my fights. I did all that stuff. And I'm getting to the point where it's like, you know what, I still need help. I still need my coaches. But I'm like, I need to rely on myself a little bit more, especially when it comes to, cardio. As it, and yeah, I can make all the excuses in the book, like, oh, I have a newborn. Oh, my coaches weren't pushing me, or oh, why didn't my coaches read my mind and all this shit. But at the end of the day, it was just I learned that I need to have more faith in myself and planning for my own future. Because as much as my coaches care and want the best for me, they're still not in my shoes, and I still need to make the moves that I need to make that are at the end of the day going to do the best for me. So, yeah, sorry about the long-winded tangent, but
No worries. No. Well, what exactly would you do for your cardio? Like, what specifically, what exercises do you do to keep your cardio at the top level?
Oh, honestly, for me, it's simple. Run. I love running. It's running for me is one of those activities that's a massive mental release. But there's just something about me and running that when I run, like I don't know why, but my body tends to flow. When I run, back in high school when I used to wrestle, the beginning of the season and off season, I would run like 10 miles every 2 days. And when I got into the pro, I just started running and just doing stuff like that. I'm just like, damn, I like this is like for me just mentally liberating, physically liberating, and I would never find myself gassing out. And the moment I kind of put my cardio into other people's hands is the moment I kind of found myself tanking and falling short of achieving my best performances.
And another guy that I know you know pretty well. He's a training partner of yours at Team Quest. As Dominic Reyes. He's left the gym now. How will that affect you? Good or bad, moving forward? Because I got to imagine, not having him around on a day-to-day basis. I mean, that's a high-level training partner that isn't there to help sharpen your skill set. Is that a big loss?
No, not really. Now, don't. I'm not here to knock on Dom by any means, but Dom was only there occasionally on Monday or a Wednesday. He was never there Monday through Friday. He came from Cobra Kai, and because Dan's gym is now fused with the Cobra Kai affiliation. Long story short, but there's a fusion there, and Dom would come Monday and Wednesdays. So and he does take some time off after the Jones fight. I didn't see him for a minute because he was recovering and kind of enjoying his somewhat fame that he got from having a phenomenal fight. So I'm not going to sit there and be like, it's terrible that he left and I'm not growing it. I'm like, no, it sucks that he left because he was a fun partner. And I love that dude's attitude. That dude's attitude was always like pristine. He was one of those guys that I would never feel like would talk down. But I also think he made the move for himself to extremes, and I wish him the best, and I hope I assume it's extremes, right? But regardless, I hope the best for him. And yeah, like him moving out was just it sucks, but I've also tried to move on, do different things with different coaches to increase my skills. So, I mean, I'm not going to judge a guy trying to better himself.
So how are things for you now at your gym and with you coaching and everything? I know it's something you really enjoy. How is that all going? Is business well?
Business is okay. I mean, it's the Christmas holiday time, so most gyms I've found have a bit more struggle around this time. We're trying new things that we've never tried. We're trying like Christmas sales and stuff like that. It's just weird for me because I'm not a money person either, so I hate going like, hey, bro, you owe for this month, or hey, you need to pay. Like it's not my cup of tea of like, you know, talking about money. Like I don't mind talking about my personal finances because I just don't care. But like other people I know that they're secretive about their personal finances, and I don't want to be the guy that comes across like, hey, tell me your financial situation because you haven't paid us. It's none of my fucking business why they haven't paid us. It's my business. They have to pay us, but I still haven't got that comfortable. Like I'm the boss. I'm the business owner feel yet, and I leave that all to the wifey because she's good at that. And a lot of people already don't like her because she's very blunt and says what's on her mind. I get told she's a female version of me, so I get it.
Well, if I was in your area, I would love to be at your gym. I'll just get that right out there. You seem like the nice guy that could still kick my butt if I got out of line. So you'd keep me right there a little bit.
Yeah, some of my students, like a lot of my students, would say I'm 100% an asshole, but it's with love. Like in a sense, it's like a big brother and stuff like that. Like here's an example. So I posted on a video on TikTok about 2 or 3 days ago. It's with me and my homeboy Adam. Now Adam's a little dude. He's 5'8", 5'9", $180 to 200 pounds. So he likes to fuck with me all the fucking time. He will mess with me. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. You fucking with me? I'm gonna kick the shit out of you now. He was like, can I check it? I'm like, go ahead. You're gonna check it. I'm recording. So I kick him a few times. I'm like, now because I kicked you, you could go ahead and kick me. Boom, boom, boom. I posted it. Yeah, I edited it because I already knew the context. Would have got bastardized because people on the internet know everything. So I posted it and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you. I'm like, damn. It's like, do you guys not have fun with people that you work with or train with, or, you don't have friends that you just dick around with? Yeah, I got a lot of hate for that video, but I thought it was worth it at the end.
Yeah, I know we follow one another on TikTok, but I haven't got on TikTok for, I feel like a year. It's been that long. So I'm going to have to go look at this video. I wanted to ask you too, how your TikTok game is going, because I know that's something that you were very passionate about. One of the last interviews that we did.
It's going good. It's just, I don't, okay, so I have the face for radio, but I also have the voice for silent films. And so it's definitely a hard platform to actually get a lot of traction. I do have more followers on TikTok than I do on Instagram, but like I feel like my Instagram people are more cultivated into people I know and people that actually want to see me do good. TikTok are just like, oh, this guy, he's weird, or oh, he's a UFC fighter. Click. Like there's definitely a handful of people that are like, oh, dude, that fight with Tafa, that fight with Romanov, I became a fan of yours. I'm like, all right, cool. So they're definitely two different platforms. So I'm still kind of testing the waters on what I find. A good hot topic right now is Jake Paul. So after this, I'm actually going to do a video about Jake Paul. I'm pretty sure I'm going to piss off somebody, even though it's going to be a positive video. So,
all right. Well, Garrett, this leads us right into what we wanted to ask you about Jared. So go ahead, Garrett. You dive right in. You address this topic because it's a good one.
Oh yeah, I mean, we have to get your take. Tyron Woodley, Jake Paul too. I'm sure you've seen it. We want to know, what was your take on that fight and the whole debacle that happened over this past weekend?
Okay, so I don't genuinely care as much as a lot of people do. I think and I actually made another video a little bit about this, but I do think Jake Paul is a guy that boxes. Can we say he's the best in the world? No. But do I think that he boxes and he knows how to sell a fight? Yes. There's something about how, like, he plays the villain. He plays the heel. And the reason why it works is because it's a very truthful heel. He's one of those guys that is arrogant. He is cocky. He does play into some tropes that a lot of people just vibe with. So he knows how to really market himself. Him and his brother are actually very intelligent in this idea of things. But he is a boxer. He does put in time. He's, I believe, been boxing about 4 or 5 years now. Now he still has a lot of flaws, and the fact that he hasn't competed a lot and experience wise does, lack of for better words, make him an easy target to pick on. But he has the money to back it up. But the fight itself, Woodley took the fight 2-3 week notice. He's not really a boxer himself. He's a wrestler dude that has a lot of power. He was never a boxer. Like, he never sat in a room and just boxed for years on end. He wrestled years on end, and he was a phenomenal wrestler. And I'm not. I actually like Woodley. I'm a huge Woodley fan. So, but for him to not win since 2019, then go into Jake Paul, get knocked out. It's maybe his time to actually retire, stay away from combat sports for a minute. Maybe focus on jiu-jitsu, because jiu-jitsu is definitely more one of those sports that might not make money, but keep his competitive edge curved, and he could do it a little bit longer.
Yeah. Well, do you feel like all the losing that Tyron Woodley's done, the latter part of his career, and now losing boxing matches to YouTube stars, do you feel like his legacy has been affected?
No, because when Woodley was winning. I mean, yeah, he went down a bad hole. Like, a good example is like BJ Penn had like 7 losses before they cut him. But at one point, that was BJ motherfucking Penn. You didn't fuck with him. Yeah, Father Time, he's undefeated. So, I mean, to kind of see Woodley kind of get hit with that curse, it sucks, but that's kind of what it happens. But I don't think people would look down on Woodley because he's lost. It's just like, people need to kind of start realizing that Jake Paul he's not a little guy either. He's like 200 pounds, 6'2", 6'3". He's a little shorter than me. Like, the dude boxes and he has weight behind it. It's going to fucking eventually rattle you, especially if you're an older gentleman. Not saying he's not in his prime, but he's not prime Woodley. He's not going to be the best. Mm-hmm. And if we hold him accountable to those last 5 fights or whatever, it does just, we take a blind eye to all of his greatness.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's very well said. Jared, obviously you're waiting for your appointment here in early January. What are your plans like through the holidays? I know you're a family man. Are you just going to be, taking it easy, spending time with your family on Christmas and New Year's?
Yeah, no. So this week I'm trying to make some eggnog for the family and friends. Trying to do some eggnog recipes. So see how that turns out. Spend definitely family time on Christmas Day. I'm kind of over the holidays. My family definitely stresses me out when it comes to the holidays. Having the newborn has also been rough. But once I get over, I think, Christmas, next week would be a lot easier. I fucking hate New Year's. I think it's the dumbest fucking day of the year, because all it is just a calendar fucking flipping over. So I hate New Year's. And so once Christmas is over, I'm pretty much set on just kind of getting back into the swing of things. Because if I get cleared, I want to be able to fight on any short notice fight that the UFC needs me to jump on, or if they give me a fight. I'm definitely going to be preparing a lot more starting next week than I have. I'm definitely going to be hunkering down on a few things that I really need to really sit down and do it.
Sure.
Pull my head out of my ass and just like, all right, motherfucker, it's time to get extremely serious about this if you want a long career in the sport. So So that's kind of my plans right now. Is just take this week, enjoy it, try to be a little bit of a fatty because fucking eggnog has so many calories, and like making it is a bitch too. Like I'm finding that out too. So I'm making it and trying to find that decent balance because if you put too much nutmeg, you're just like, this kind of sucks. But if you don't put enough nutmeg and cinnamon and some clovers, so it's a juggling act. So
Yeah, you got to have the right balance of everything to make the perfect eggnog. Well, Jared, one thing's for certain, man. Both myself and Garrett, we wish you nothing but positive vibes here moving forward as you have this appointment to figure out what's going on with your health, because we definitely love watching you compete inside of the octagon. And as always, man, it's a pleasure talking to you. You're really one of the nicest guys that I've ever interviewed, period. So it's always a pleasure. Before I do let you go, I want to give you the floor, man. Tell people where to follow you on social media. Tell people where to follow your TikTok. And if you have anyone to thank, any sponsors, the floor is yours.
Thank you guys for having me. It's always a pleasure. I mean, we've been on podcasts together for a couple of years now, and they're always fun. But if you want to find me on any social media platform, it's Jared Vanderaa. Instagram and TikTok is where I'm 90% more active. I'm occasionally active on Twitter because I'll like to post something during fights. But Facebook, I just feel like Facebook's for old people. No shots being thrown right now, Ryan. And I want to thank all my fans for supporting me. And happy holidays to everybody. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks again for the time, man. Have a nice Christmas and New Year's, even though I know you don't like it. And we'll be talking again soon because you're going to get some good news. I know it.
You too, gents.
Yeah.
All right, and so we got to thank Jared Vanderaa for joining us today. First and foremost, I really was surprised to hear about the seriousness of his health concerns. So we just want to take this moment to wish him nothing but the best here moving forward. Hopefully he gets some good news in early January. It's nothing serious, and we'll see him back in the octagon again real soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Very shocked to hear that type of news. We hope nothing but the best for him, and hopefully he can get cleared and get back in there doing what he loves to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and we don't have any fights this weekend. We don't have any best bets. If you want a little bit of a recap, we killed it last week. I thought we did very, very well. My parlay hit, my one underdog hit, and Macy Shizan was so close. She did so well in the first round, and then she faltered in the second round. I was very upset. But all in all, good night betting. How did your picks go?
Well, I was right about GM3, although it got off to a little bit of a rocky start. He was able to come through and get the submission in the third round. One guy that I didn't mention that I felt very strongly was going to go in and win was Cub Swanson, and he actually picked up Fight of the Night honors. He went in and starched Darren Elkins, so I was right about that. But I'm starting to get back on track. Forget about all my losses with Amanda Nunes and Dustin Poirier. That's a thing of the past. 2022, it's going to be nothing but W's. So just remember this point moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. 2022, big things coming. Unfortunately, there's no fights this weekend, no fights next weekend. We got a whole month off, but that doesn't mean this show stops. We will be back next week and the week after and the week after. Every single week, you will see us, the KJ MMA Show. And we'll see you all again next week around the same time. We'll see you all